Hey everyone, welcome back. So, there's this magical tournament held every year where a bunch of awesome medieval fantasy builders get together to show off their skills. It's called Summer Joust and it's super epic, so you should probably join. I took part in it and built a couple of mocks, including this one, but you already knew that because I'm sure you've watched my Summer Joust Roundup video, right? Right? Anyway, doesn't matter, here we go. That's a wrap. Okay, the first thing I'm going to go over are the techniques used to make all the plants and greenery in this model. First up, we've got vine version number 1. To build this guy, all you've got to do is attach a brown whip to a wall where you'd like the vine to be, and then you hang up a bunch of leaf pieces using minifigure hands that you've brutally ripped from your trusting, helpless little figures. Hey look, Sigfig, I'm sorry, it had to be done. The other vine type I used uses only 2 types of pieces. One long green string with the little bar segments, wrapped around a bunch of connected droid arms. You could probably argue that the green string alone could be used as a vine, but I just thought it didn't look too ambitious or interesting, hence the droid arms. Next up, we've got this shrubbery which is climbing up the wall in the back. It's incredibly simple, just a bunch of those green flower thingamabobs attached to standard branches, which in turn are connected to the wall using snot bricks. And finally, I created these bushes here on the side by connecting some new stem pieces to a green stalk, and then adding another green stalk on which I placed a couple of leaf pieces using white flowers. Bonus plant. I also stuck in some carrot stems here and there on the base to resemble some smaller bits of greenery poking through the floor of the destroyed monastery. It's very simple, doesn't require any work at all, and it looks great. Next up after plants, you've got walls, which you may notice there aren't a lot of. This is due to the fact that this mock was an immersive scene, which I forgot to mention earlier. Basically, when it comes to immersive scenes, you're not building a mock to showcase at a convention or something, you're building it for the sole purpose of taking literally just one awesome photo, like what I've done here. So if you're only taking one photo, then there's really no need to build an entire monastery, as you'll only see a tiny fragment. This way, I was able to build this entry a lot quicker, and it also allowed me to use my pieces more freely, knowing I wasn't building some huge ship or something. First off, we've got the fairly standard hand wall technique. As the name suggests, it uses a lot of minifigure hands, so once again you'll have to betray your loyal servants and rob them of their body parts. This technique uses minifigure hands placed on the underside of 1x2 tiles to connect them to each other, while at the same time leaving little gaps in between the 2 rows. This is a great technique when you're trying to build a brick wall or show some small texturing in your mocks, like what I've done here. The next technique is incredibly valuable and very little people know about it. So valuable in fact that some people have sold all their possessions to Lepin to even catch a glimpse of this technique. If you have a weak heart or an allergy to amazing things, you may want to skip this next technique as they'll probably go insane over how awesome it is and you'll spend the rest of your days building 4+ sets. Whoa, it's so complex. I need a 4+ set. Jokes aside, this is a very simple technique, but an effective one that can actually add a lot to your models without eating up a lot of your time or patience. Basically, what you've got to do is while building a regular wall made out of standard bricks, every once in a while slip in a little section made up of masonry bricks, tiles, and she slopes to give the wall a bit of texturing without overdoing it. This is a technique I used a couple of times, but I think it's most visible in the background wall of my futuristic military fig barf. As you can see, there are a couple of areas here and there where some small texturing is visible, but it's not overdone, so the wall looks fairly realistic. Fun fact, LEGO has also used a simpler version of this technique in a couple of their sets, such as the Ghostbusters Firehouse. Next up, we've got the arch. As far as arches go, this is pretty much the first technique that comes to mind in my opinion. Basically, you take a piece of flex tube and attach a bunch of little segments using clips. Super simple, and the flex tube allows the arch to be bent in really whatever shape you want. Flex tube is a super useful piece, and I feel like the longer you build, the more you use it, whether it's for walls, roofs, or in this case, an arch. Last, but certainly not least, we've got the columns. Columns are great for building immersive scenes because they allow you to block out areas where there aren't any bricks without building an entire wall, which would have impacted heavily on your total number of available pieces. To construct the columns, I took a 3L bar attached to a clip, built up a small 1x2 wall in front of it, and then attached some 1x2 slopes to the bars on both sides using headlight bricks and donut studs. Here's a closer look at the 1x2 slopes. Next up after the walls and columns is the floor. While the technique I used for the floor does look pretty cool, I must warn you ahead of time it is incredibly time consuming and requires a whole lot of plates and tiles. So unless you've got a large stash of those somewhere, or some UCS sets you can strip the parts off of, then you may want to stick to something else. If you do however have a lot of plates and tiles, as well as a great deal of time, then this is the technique for you. All you've got to do is build a large wall out of tiles, bricks, and plates, and place it sideways to create a floor. Additionally, you can add in some more colors to make the floor more interesting. I add some sand grid and olive to try and recreate some moss. Another little detail you could consider adding are 1x2 tiles that are only partly pushed down. This leaves little bumps in the floor and just adds another layer to the entire detailing. It's also perfect for your minifigures to trip on. For the last part of this video, I'm going to go through pointing out all of the NPU. First off, we've got this little clump of rocks. Well, at first glance, these rocks look like, well, rocks. They're actually a couple of Star Wars helmets and a minifigure arm and hairpiece. Dang. Alright, I might have gone a bit too far now. I also use a green cattle horn for the stems of these two little flowers over here. There's also this cool little candle stand design over here that uses a flower to resemble wax. I actually already explained how to make this candle stand in my Harry Potter Trees and MOC technique breakdown. I'll leave a link to that video up top. Alright, as far as I'm aware, that just about wraps it up for this Summer Joust MOC. One down, two to go. Before I finish, I'd like to point out that while I didn't win the monastery category, I did get an honorable mention, and this MOC was definitely a step up from the entry I built last year. Yeah, that goes without saying. Anyway, be sure to subscribe if you want to see the next two videos, which will contain more Summer Joust MOCs. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.